and welcome to This is USG, a video podcast by the universities at Shady Grove. 9 universities, 1 campus, great results. I'm Ann Kademian, Executive Director of USG. Montgomery County is one of the nation's leading hubs for biotechnology and life sciences, with some of the world's most cutting-edge R&D and manufacturing firms, and federal labs such as NIH, NIST, and the FDA. Joining me to discuss this fast-growing, life-saving industry and the great need to attract and retain talent is one of our most prominent leaders within the region. Ken Mills is President and CEO of REGENXBIO, a leading global gene therapy company headquartered in Rockville, Maryland, just down the street from the USG campus. And we are very proud to have Ken as a member of the USG Board of Advisors. Ken, welcome to This is USG.
Thank you, Ann. I'm really excited to be here.
Thanks so much for joining us. Ken, I wonder if we could start focusing on you and your journey to being president and CEO of REGENXBIO. I know that you were a student at MIT and you studied chemistry. You've been part of some really exciting startups in the biotechnology space. Tell us a little bit about your interest in this world and how you found your way to chemistry and how you found your way into biotechnology.
Absolutely. So I was born in New York, actually grew up in upstate New York. And I think as a young child, I took interest in science by virtue of the things that were going on around me, or the little bit of science we were afforded in class in elementary school and middle school. I think that by the time I got to high school, I started to have some experience and exposure to real more intensive laboratory work and classwork. And I thought somewhere between study of science, biology, and chemistry became really appealing to me, but also I started to be influenced that I really liked the connectivity to helping people. And I actually thought that medicine was going to be a path that I was going to follow. And that's what led me to apply to a lot of programs at different schools and colleges that would put me on that path. And I was lucky to be accepted to MIT at that time. It's generally thought of as more of an engineering school, but it really has an excellent chemistry and biology department. In fact, I think when I was there, the biology department was one of the fastest growing, and chemistry was not far behind. So I sort of started my secondary career in education thinking about medicine, about helping people, and use the ability to get a chemistry degree as kind of a launching pad for that. But your journey is never quite as you predict. And I think that along the way, there were a lot of things that influenced me all the way through to REGENX. One of them was sort of a personal story that has really carried with me, or I've carried it with me since high school, which is I had been doing a lot of volunteer work as a student. And there was not too far from where I went to high school, a medical institution, Albany Medical College, and sort of related research, but there was also a Ronald McDonald House there. And so I did volunteer with a number of the families and pediatric patients that were staying at the Ronald McDonald House down the road from my high school and really close to the Albany Medical Center. And, a few of the boys and girls and families really just had a profound effect on me. And so by the time I got to MIT, I was even more affected by wanting to do everything that I could to help people. What I learned about myself in college was that I wanted to get there faster than maybe some of the more traditional paths were allowing for. It seemed like a really long journey to start from a bachelor's degree to maybe a PhD or a medical degree. And so at the end of my bachelor's, I decided to kind of reinventory where things were. And quite honestly, there were some economics involved. I also needed to get out into the workforce and find an opportunity to generate the income that could help me maybe take that next step. So I went looking for a job, And I found a real set of opportunities, actually, and that's where the story begins about Maryland and Regenix here in this region. And my first job out of college was moving from Boston down here to Maryland, where I kind of immersed myself in the first company that I worked at, and basically took every opportunity to learn everything that was going on at the company. Not just things that were associated with chemistry, my background in biology, but how a company worked and sort of what the mission was, how the background of the company was formed and how it was financed and how the people were recruited. And I just fell in love with kind of the living, breathing thing that was a life sciences company. And honestly, that, really kept me anchored here in Maryland. While I was here, I did, turn to opportunities to look to go back to, get additional degrees. But every time I did, at least for me in my journey, it was to stay put with what I was doing. And that lasted me almost a decade, if you will, until I realized that, I had accumulated a lot of real world knowledge and really sort of grown my understanding, and decided that I wanted to have an opportunity to see if I could start something from scratch, do something on my own. And that began the purpose and the background of Regenix Bio, which we started in the late 2000s. Around 2009, we were founded, and it's a special kind, I think, of medicines company. We're focused on a very innovative and new technology, one that, while it can come with great benefits, certainly had a lot of work to be done to sort of eliminate the risks of things that weren't understood. And so at Regenix Bio, we focus on gene therapy. And I have to say that, the proudest part of, sort of sitting here with you today is that, I moved here to Maryland, Montgomery County in the mid 90s with a, sort of a plan and an understanding that I wanted to help people. And I really feel like, I'm sitting in a seat today, having the type of impact that I hope that I would, all the way back to, even sort of middle school and into high school. So again, in our field and in my space, a bit of an unorthodox path that I, have only a bachelor's degree. However, I think the real world experience, the on the job experience, and, understanding that, pathways, journeys, and success comes in all different shapes and sizes. I'm really happy with where I am today, personally and professionally, and especially proud about Regenix Bio.
Well, we're really happy that you're here as well, and really excited about all you've accomplished and the impact you're having as well. If I could, there's a couple of things that stand out about your story that I'd like you to just talk a little bit more about. One is, you talk about this amazing experience with the Ronald McDonald House and meeting the families there, and how really seeing the circumstances and the situation of families wanting to make a difference. And so that experience, that personal experience, was so impactful for you. And we talk a lot about the need for experiential learning opportunities, hands-on learning opportunities for our students. They can be so transformative, not only in learning a skill, but in finding a calling as well. And so I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about that. That really stands out for me in your story. And I think, I hear in your story as well, a lot of risk taking in it, but really driven by this calling. I mean, your willingness to try new companies, to start building your own company. This is a huge risk, a big endeavor, and yet your calling was very powerful and strong, I think, to do that, and sounds like it's fueled a lot of your success. Can you talk more about that initial experience and the importance of that sense of calling for what you're doing as well?
Yeah, no, thanks for giving me the opportunity to expand on that. I think that, again, for me, my learning and growth, it has been essential, I've found, to sort of stay connected to that purpose, or that calling. And, I've offered myself the opportunity to, look at other ways to grow, or look at how other people who have been successful grow. And I would say that, my path has been one, not only to connect with that purpose, but also to connect with the people that in essence are the customer of healthcare or of medicine. And, it's all of us, right? I mean, we all experience it directly, indirectly throughout our lives. And, even so that starting point with that special opportunity to work, inside, doing work with families at the Ronald McDonald House, I actually carried over into when I was at college. I extended that to volunteer at hospitals that were local to MIT while I was there. I'll admit that I needed that for two reasons. I needed money, but I also coveted the experience and the connection to what was happening in that space. And I continue to carry that forward even in the work that I do today at REGENXBIO, where a lot of my work as CEO can be sometimes more administrative or a bit more focused on, strategy and sort of vision of the business. But I spend a lot of time, a lot of my days also focused on the people, not only the people in my own organization, but the families and the patients that are part of the journey for where our medicines are traveling and available to. Today, it's through clinical trials, but ultimately, we hope it will be through more advanced approvals for many, many patients. So, I found it incredibly important to, be, orthodox in your studies and sort of be focused on, achieving things. But for me, augmenting that with real world experience. And as you said, that experiential learning for my own growth was irreplaceable. It's a motivator, but it's also its own educator for me. And I think it's been, certainly a key to my success, and, one looking back that, I'll never let go of it. It's, as I mentioned, a part of my day-to-day here at REGENX even today.
Thank you for building on that. It's really insightful for us. I've heard you talk before, Ken, about REGENXBIO and the need to be really careful in what you're doing because lives are at stake, but also the need to be really, moving quickly and finding results because lives are at stake as well. And I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about what REGENXBIO does and how that kind of sense of, the need to be really careful and make sure you're covering all your bases and making sure that everything is done according to a really rigorous process, but at the same time, that sense of urgency that drives what you're doing as well. Could you tell us about the company and what gene therapy is, and also kind of help us understand that sense of urgency as well as the need for thoroughness?
Yeah, absolutely. So at REGENXBIO, we do something that, we've and others have coined the term gene therapy. And this is a modality of new medicines that can be applied in a number of ways. It's something that takes advantage of actually work that went on in this county probably 20, 30 years ago, the sequencing of the human genome and sort of the unlocking of our understanding of the fundamental building blocks of human biology. And we're able to, with gene therapy, add, remove, or modify gene function. And that has the potential to really unlock treatment for a vast number of diseases that really were previously untreatable until that knowledge was there with the mapping of the genome and the types of technologies that we've brought into places like REGENXBIO can affect. So we find ourselves, really having an embarrassingly rich number of opportunities to help people. And it's, common diseases sometimes. Other times it can be very, very uncommon or rare diseases where, gene therapy can have an effect. One of the special interesting things about gene therapy as well is it's more like a surgery than you think of in terms of traditional medicine in the fact that it's a one-time administration or one-time treatment. Sometimes it can involve going into an operating room, but other times gene therapy can actually be administered in principle just in the doctor's office or potentially even in something like a CVS over time. What's amazing though is that, you can imagine the impact, and, we're seeing it a little bit today because actually elements of gene therapy and knowledge are actually being borrowed and applied to, frankly, the vaccines that are being developed for infectious diseases like, of course, COVID-19. but we're talking about doing this for a much broader array of diseases and things that people are experiencing or familiar with. And so, at Regenix Bio, the way that we apply that, and we've sort of built, capabilities and infrastructure over time is, first we started with some of the fundamental tools and building blocks and basic understanding. And then we have to layer in the ability to make these things safely and of high quality and test them in a number of ways before we even have the confidence to bring them into the scenario where they're being offered to a family or a patient for study. We have the benefit of, the Food and Drug Administration being right down the road here from us. They're responsible in the United States, of course, for regulating food and drugs and the safety of it, but they're also partners to companies like Regenix Bio in looking at different diseases and situations on a case-by-case basis and evaluating through science something that I refer to at times as the sort of benefit and risk equation. And in general, I think our approach in the treatment of medicine, the application of gene therapy is, first and foremost, like you alluded to, Anne, establish that it is safe and of high quality, and then recognize that it's unknown. Now, unknown doesn't mean unsafe. It just means that it's unknown, and that in certain circumstances, there are unknowns that we all have to face with respect to diseases, and those unknowns can have, severe consequences. So we look at the benefit of one of our treatments offsetting the other unknowns of perhaps going untreated or having to deal with the treatment today that has a lot of side effects or doesn't have the best results itself. And what we found is that I think a gene therapy through these one-time treatments and this sort of intimate knowledge with the understanding of biology can really enhance the profile of the benefit of a treatment. And so, with that as a given, I know here at our site in Rockville, we focus very much on how to create these things, literally manufacture them as safely as possible so that they can be administered and expanded and scaled. And, it's not easy, but certainly it's important. And I consider, while I didn't go to medical school, our company is, making the types of decisions as a team and partnered with groups like the FDA and other partners that, honestly, I see through my experience that doctors and families and patients have to make every day on their own, and sometimes they have medicines available to sort of contribute to that equation. But in other cases, and it's often the case that some of the diseases that we focus on, there literally are no medicines available for certain types of treatments, certain types of diseases. And the result of that can be really, severe and unfortunate endpoints and consequences. So, it's an exciting space. It's one that we have to be very careful about and sort of bring along to make sure that everyone understands the level of commitment we make to the safety and quality of it. But I can say, proudly that Regenix technology, having been applied in a number of human clinical trials, and even within the last few years, in one case, in one approved product for a very severe disease that is onset in very young patients, really has shown to be very safe, but also had a profound effect on outcomes and positive outcomes for literally thousands of families at this stage. So, we're making great progress. The idea is to expand, thousands to millions. And that's where we're going next with our mission.
It's very exciting. I mean, the potential, the possibilities, as well as already the tremendous impact you're having is very exciting. Ken, when I hear you talk about your company and the people who work with you, you clearly have to build a team that embraces this calling, that embraces this vision, that embraces not only the science and the technology and the challenges of that, but also the urgency of what you're doing as well. But I also hear you speak with such understanding of the physicians and the families and the patients who are on the receiving end of these treatments as well. Thinking about how you build a company, it's not only talent, but it's commitment to the mission. It's a culture that you have to build there as well, an understanding of who you serve and who your customer is. Could you, I want to, in a minute, I want to talk more about specifically about talent and about your kind of workforce, but I wonder if you could, as a way to bridge that conversation, could you talk to us a little bit about how you see the role of culture and your role as a leader in building the company that you have to deliver on what you do every single day? What role does, how do you understand your culture, the culture of your organization? Why is that important for the work that you do?
Yeah, I think that, I find that in healthcare or in biotech, just by the nature of what we do, you're attracting people that want to be part of a certain culture to begin with, one that is about a mission of helping patients and families. And that is certainly our mission at REGENXBIO. And, it's literally written down as our mission to, establish the curative potential of these one-time gene therapy treatments for as many people as possible. After that, and you and I have talked a lot about this, for me, I think a lot of people might have the misconception, perhaps, that science is probably the next most important thing, right, to make all of this happen. And I think for me, it's actually the people that are the most important thing. Science is part of the equation, but the people to take the science and to take the capabilities and get these things done in an efficient way, in a safe way, deliver them is really where it all starts. So, as we were sort of drawing up the mission, the next step in our process for establishing a culture was to talk about what are the values of our company and how are we going to use that to guide us. Because while I've certainly been emphasizing that I think gene therapy is innovative and exciting and it's a part of the future of the treatment of medicine, there are sad days at REGENXBIO where the science isn't going in the direction that we want, or the medicines are having experiences that we're learning about and growing about. But that development sometimes feels more like a setback, sometimes a severe setback than the type of growth that you're looking for. And I think the number one value that we established for ourselves as a leadership team when we came together and as the company has grown has been trust. Trust in ourselves, trust in sort of the partnership across the different people and functions, trust between us and the physicians and the patients and the families, trust that they need us to understand what it is that we're doing, establish the safety and quality, and then sort of build those types of bridges. And, we keep working on that every day. I probably use the word trust, I don't know, a couple hundred times in my conversations around the office and in the labs and when we're talking as a company together. And I think it's incredibly important to prioritize people, to prioritize trust. I think the truth is that there's a lot of great and interesting science. We're in a rich period of time when it comes to innovation and science. And somewhat recently, we've been in a pretty rich period of time also when it comes to being able to fund that science and innovation. But there's nothing that replaces, for me, the people and the trust that you put in them to sort of execute on missions like REGENXBIO, or even as you and I have talked, the missions of places like USG.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think this is such an important insight and thing to understand, that even the most technologically driven companies need really good people and a lot of trust, and a lot of understanding in what's driving the work going forward. So let's talk about USG. We just completed our strategic plan, and we're very focused on working with the region to build pathways into great careers. And, you yourself came from Massachusetts, trained at MIT, came to Montgomery County. We want more people to come to Montgomery County, but we also want to develop the talent here in Montgomery County as well. And I think this has been a real challenge for the life sciences in general. It's a booming industry, but really developing those talent pipelines so that there is the scientific talent and know-how and management talent and data talent and all of that to make the industry thrive. We're doing our best here at Shady Grove. I'm going to try to really partner to really deliver on more talent in this space on a regular basis. But could you talk to us about what some of the primary talent needs are in this space in the life sciences, and where you see the role that USG can play in partnering with the industry in order to deliver on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was one of the reasons I was so excited to have the opportunity to work with you and others on the mission of the Board of Advisors and you as executive director. That strategic process, I got lucky. I mean, I started about a year after your appointment, and that process was substantially far along, but also still taking involvement and input. And I think the people side of it, from my perspective, is so essential. We want and need a community of highly skilled and sort of well-trained workforce in general, and that's certainly scientists and lab technicians, but also other types of professionals. And I think that what I have seen in my last 25 years of experience in Montgomery County is that we have a lot of great tools and a lot of foundational tools for setting us up for that success, including but not limited to USG, but also places, government institutions like the FDA and the NIH and NIST. And then, I blend in the industrial side of things with Regenix and even some of the, outcropping of large companies that have set up and established, base of operations here in Montgomery County. And I think that, it's, for me, what's been fantastic about learning more about the mission of USG and how it's focused on the experiential learning of many, many different types of students in the USM system coming to one place, which is, in my backyard, one that I feel really passionate about, where I'm always looking for a crop of new, great talent to come in, is establishing USG as a part of the cross communication with all of these different agencies, the industry, the government, the academic institutions, the 9 of them, right, that are part of the USM system, and sort of organizing all of that behind a mission that is about, helping to develop the workforce, but making sure to understand, what the sort of output of that is and where is it going, right? I think that there are a lot of phenomenal institutions and infrastructures, and quite selfishly here for Regenix Bio, we want to be part of that, part of the communication about where we're growing, how we're growing, and how those needs can be met, so that the entire county and all the sort of cross-linking that goes on with all these great institutions can establish a good understanding and its own level of trust about the types of investments we're making in the next generation of people. So I've grown a lot and learned a lot, even just in the last 6 months, by mostly sitting and listening, but also bringing the perspective of an industry participant here in Montgomery County, and really with the entirety of Maryland in mind for how this kind of end-to-end workforce development and the essential nature of the work that goes on in the sort of regional focus of USG is to what I think is the success of the industry in this area, at least for biotech. But I know, listening to the Board of Advisors discussions, it's all the industries in this county as well that are subscribing to that.
Yeah, no, that's great. We're so thrilled to have you on the board, Ken. And, I think from our perspective to what you've just described about this need for this partnership is front and center, that, there's academia developing talent and, educating students to be ready. And there's, the business, which needs the talent in order to grow and thrive. And there needs to be more interconnectivity, I think, between these two in terms of how we plan for academic programming, how we connect with business along the way. A big part of our plan is, really focusing especially on those years when a student needs mentoring, internships and experiential learning, interview opportunities and connections to industry, and so that students can leave Shady Grove with meaningful careers that are directly aligned with their initial aspirations. And so I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about, where you sit as a member of the Board of Advisors, but also as president and CEO of Regenix Bio. What are some ways, or where do you see the challenges for how business and academia might work better together? I think there's a huge opportunity here, which you just outlined beautifully, in terms of this growth opportunity, this industry growing here in Montgomery County. what are some ways you as a president and CEO would like to see business, where would you like to see business have more opportunities in engaging with academia? What would make a difference in terms of being able to make those connections more explicit and more beneficial as well?
Yeah, before getting into the specifics, I have to say, and that your leadership and the team at USG has really, given me great perspective and shown a lot of understanding, I think, of that from the student-centric perspective. And that's gotten me very excited as someone in industry to think more about how we can interact and sort of build those bridges. And I think, some of the work, even just in the last 6 months, I've learned about the opportunities for some of our employees to be mentors to USG students and started to ramp up that type of participation. We have interns coming into our intern program that we have at Regenexx Bio over the summer that includes USG students this year. So
Right.
I think that, real tangible things are already happening, within sort of months of the, trust building and sort of understanding between, company at Regenexx Bio and the team and the leadership at USG. And I think that, honestly, that is exactly, what it is about. It's about opening up the lines of communication directly, with the institution of learning, understanding what the path is for those students and giving them opportunities to learn more about what a company or, sort of an industry at large is doing. And so, and turning that, and it hasn't been easy. I know, when you and I first talked, might have been one of the first times we had actually been out in public. And, it's the last couple of years have been really challenging for sort of that human connectivity. But if I go all the way back to, the beginning of our conversation, nothing for me replaced being in the Ronald McDonald House in the middle of everything that people were experiencing, good or bad, and learning about patients, families, and groups that I thought of as my future customer, my future, purpose and calling, and giving someone that opportunity that wants it in a learning environment today, I think is, sounds like something that, as part of the strategic plan 2.0 and as part of the model, and I think this is a special model, an innovative model that's emerging through USG. I personally view that it's one of the most important aspects of learning and growth and development. And, I look at it from the perspective of, the company is how can we do more and what can we do to sort of open up those channels of communication, opportunities, learning, and trust with industry in our space. And I'm trying to make that rub off on some of the government institutions as well. And maybe, a bit more stodgy, but no less innovative and important. But I actually see in the people that they actually similarly bring that level of enthusiasm through at least the USG Board of Advisors for you. And I see the level of engagement from you and your team as being one that is really important, again, for that recipe for success.
So Ken, I was going to ask you a wrap-up question, but you just covered it so beautifully with, kind of connecting the importance of the experience, the importance of the passion that can grow from that experience, and the importance of all of these partnerships as well to make it all work. We're trying to build an educational ecosystem here in Montgomery County that is robust and effective, but most importantly, equitable and empowering for every single student. And I really appreciate your reflecting on the students we serve and how we can do that in a more equitable and impactful way. So Ken, thank you so much for your time tonight. And this has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you for all you're doing to lead Regenexx Bio and the impact you're having on so many lives. And thank you for your service on USG's Board of Advisors. We're very honored.
Thank you, Ann, and thanks for letting me be a part of it. And I really enjoy your leadership and the work of your team on the mission at USG.
Thank you so much.